Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nugget 2021. It's my honor to introduce our next speaker here, and thank you so much for joining us live. So today we have Matt Neifer with us from Transaction Network Services, and he's going to be presenting on business transformation by revolutionizing your monitoring. Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you joining us and jumping on live. I know it was kind of a time crunch, but happy to have you. So with that, I think all systems are go, and I'm going to hand it off to you.
Excellent. So hello out there, everybody attending Nugget 2021. This is my first Nugget conference, so I'm excited to be here. So I guess with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. So today, for today's session, we're going to be talking about business transformation by revolutionizing your monitoring. And I'm here from Transaction Network Services. The idea being how to drive business improvements by killing off your dinosaur monitoring stacks. Now, with this presentation, I tried to keep it somewhat light because we've all been through tough and challenging presentations before. So I'm trying to keep this with a few pop culture references, and keep it kind of fun. So let's dig right in. What is Transaction Network Services? So we're headquartered in Reston, Virginia. We've got customers in over 60 different countries. We've been around for a minute. So we were founded in 1990. And then we process billions of transactions each year. And as we dive through each of our major market presences, you're going to see we're kind of like the Matrix. We are kind of everywhere, and you don't even know it. I think that's why Koch Industries recognized that and acquired us back in June of this year. So moving forward, we have a presence in the payments market space. So just to put it in perspective, we manage 33 billion payment transactions a year. That means through our payments processing organization, we clear almost $2 billion worth of transactions in payments alone daily. You can see we support millions of point of sale terminals and tens of thousands of ATMs around the world. So when you're paying at the pump, you can think of us because we are most likely handling that transaction for you. Moving on to the financial markets. So while you're out there chasing the GameStop dragon as it's moving on up in price, you may be calling your broker or executing a trade through your broker, and they are executing that transaction against the marketplace via Transaction Network Services. So we do have a major presence in the financial markets. We've got customers all over the major financial institutions, and we move fast. So we've got ultra low latency connections to 125 major exchanges globally. We also have a big presence in the communications market. So when we talk about communications, cell phones, and you can thank us when you identify spam filtering and you know whether or not to pick up that unknown caller. We also have the Call Guardian product, which issues scoring and lets you know whether or not that caller ID is that caller is safe to pick up. So a little bit about myself. I'm the Director of Network Management Systems and Automation. So basically, I was brought in to figure out how to revolutionize our monitoring stacks, move off of legacy solutions, and then bring more automation to bear throughout our enterprise. Again, my name is Matt Neifer. Happy to converse with anybody outside of Nugget afterwards. If you want to come find me on LinkedIn, I'm pretty easy to find. There aren't really any Matt Neifers other than me running across the globe, so I'm pretty easy to find. So when we started out with our monitoring transformation program, it's more monitoring rationalization. We're trying to get off of our legacy monitoring stacks. We wanted to collect better data, and we wanted to do it in a consolidated fashion. So that way I know all of us have dealt with monitoring stacks across our legacy enterprise, especially if you've been around for a few years. And so you end up with an inability to collaborate and correlate that data across those stacks. And at the end of the day, what we want to do with monitoring is improve the customer experience. So we've got here some of our major goals that we wanted to accomplish through our monitoring revolution. We said we need to be better at identifying and resolving incidents quickly. We wanted faster engagement with the customer when incidents do occur, because you got to keep in mind from the customer's perspective, when things do go wrong, that could be one of their worst days. You want to, obviously you're shooting for 4 or 5 nines in availability, but sometimes things happen. So it's important for the customer state of mind and well-being to engage them as quickly as possible when things do occur. We also want to get a better understanding of service health and key performance indicators, those tasty KPIs. And then we want to enable cleaner reporting, customer portal dashboards, and enhancements for data extraction and API integration to really meld our data across our enterprise in a cohesive manner. So we said, okay, that's awesome, but what if we could take it further? So the idea of taking that further is a mission that was put down to us by our CEO, Mr. Mike Keegan. He said, let's make it easier to do business with TNS inside and out, obviously outward for our customers, but also internally. What are some things that we can do to make it easier to get things out the door, get services delivered out to our customers? And again, I've got some pop culture references. So monitoring and automation are powerful allies. They go together like peas and carrots. And so we've got developing standardized service delivery models so we can bring more automation to bear, formalize and rationalize our service catalogs. So that way we can bring some unification around what services we're deploying, as opposed to having custom delivery thusly making each customer a little too unique. We want to standardize configuration items and data models in our CMDB, and then establishing a community of practice around automation. As you get people thinking about automation, things naturally become more efficient. You're thinking of ways, can I do this faster? And then all of a sudden, can we create some bots around this, thusly freeing up time that can be committed elsewhere? We also wanted to push for design thinking for API-led enterprise integration, and then workflow modeling to manage through automation orchestration. So basically, once you figure out what you want to automate, you refine that process, tighten it up, and then build that bot to go ahead and deliver it for you. And then for your Captain Planet enthusiasts out there, when monitoring and automation combine, that brings us to Netrio. So the idea of enabling IT to transform business. And I know I personally have been in the monitoring game for over 15 years, and I've been waiting for this time where monitoring could start to lead the way. Many times over my career, monitoring has been looked at as a kind of a money pit, a necessary evil, in order to assess health of services and make sure things are up. Hey, is that server up? But now we're taking it farther. Now we're actually using it to understand what our customer transactions look like. We're able to make informed business decisions off of the capacity metrics and information that we're collecting from our systems, and therefore being able to present a better customer experience at the end of the day. So when I was first approached by the concept of Netrio, it was kind of a cold call. And I'll be honest, I get tons of cold calls every single day, but this one really piqued my interest. I said, it says IT leaders are taking a new perspective to see a reduction in incidents using AI and ML without bolting on complex tools. And to me, I've lived that life. I've been in multiple enterprises where you're trying to Frankenstein things together. You've got a bunch of different monitoring tools. You've got Oracle. You've got your DBA tools, monitoring tools. You've got your server monitoring tools. Your networking teams usually have different tools. Your application teams run an APM. And then on top of all of that, you got an event management aggregator and so on and so forth. We said, then it goes on. Are you interested in learning how they are doing that? It's an unconventional approach. And to me, that starts to get my attention. And then I like the little well-wishing. So we kind of took things from there. I reached back out, I responded, and then our engagement dance kind of started to begin. So as the information was shared to me about what Netrio and OmniCenter were all about, big thing, first thing, you got to collect the data. You got to observe what's going on. And so I said, hey, man, I see, I'm starting to see what you're doing here, getting that full stack monitoring, which you can see the different component layers are usually provided by a number of different tool sets. So the idea of being able to consolidate everything into one unified tool stack was very, very appealing. And then getting all the different layers that go into the whole end-to-end stack. And at the end of the day, up at the top, business impact. So you're able to start to understand what's happening from a business perspective. So now you're able to go to your executives with all of the layers of data that you've collected. And you're able to say, hey, this is actually what's happening across our enterprise. Analytics. Not only do we collect the data, we've got to figure out what we're going to do with the data. And I was like, hey, man, I'm all about analysis. Now you're starting to make a whole lot of sense here. Now you're talking my language, automation. Now we're taking all the data that we've collected, we've analyzed the data that we've collected, we're building correlations, we're understanding what's happening, but now we get to present it in a way that's consumable, real-time dashboards, publishing reports, and automations. Because I believe there are so many opportunities for automation across your enterprise, and it's vital that that we got the data to make that happen. And then also you've got your ITSM integration, which is absolutely important. And then I saw this slide, and this slide really blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God, these are all the things that I've ever wanted to do from a monitoring perspective. Because most of the time as a monitoring guy, you get stuck on the left side where, hey, it's all about collecting the data. But what good is the data once you've collected if you don't know what to do with it? And so that's where when you start combining the observational and analytical exercises together, that's where things become really, really powerful. Now you can act. Now you're able to make things happen with what you've collected and what you've analyzed. And it's that analysis layer, which has always been really, really elusive. You got the idea of AI ops, which in a lot of cases is kind of a buzzword that a lot of companies throw out there. They're like, hey, we can collect all your data and we can magically tell you what's wrong. There's a difference between talking about it and actually doing it. So I'm very, very excited with the road ahead when it comes to Netrio. So I've already told you that I fell in love with the platform right off the bat because it gave me or provided me with an opportunity to bring in an enterprise solution that could consolidate a lot of other tools that were out there. It also was price effectively. One of the things I failed to mention is that we have a really large enterprise. We've got something on the northward of 100,000 different device elements across the globe in our core data centers and then also in POPs all across the world. But I broke rule number one when it comes to monitoring, which is rules before tools. I've already fallen in love with the tool set, but I've been burned before because it dove into other tools and here I go again. I'm starting that same pattern again. I've fallen in love with the tool set before I know exactly how we're going to apply it. So we said, okay, how are we going to define what success looks like? So this is where we started. We said it's about consolidating, replacing our legacy monitoring stacks, about automating the management of the platform, because the legacy platforms that we have kill us with the operational tail and BAU activities. We said we need to, not only do we need to help the enterprise, we need to help ourselves. We need to be able to build out a monitoring stack that requires far less TLC than anything else that's out there. And then we wanted to standardize the monitoring approach. So we have far too many one-off monitoring scenarios that are out there across our enterprise. And that ends up with us having to turn and tweak and move the dials all over the place, which again, takes us away from being able to be nimble. We want to be able to standardize so that way we minimize our customizations. And then we need to help out our operations organizations. We need to reduce the alarm noise. Because if any of you have been in operations, I've spent many years in operations, you get crushed with all of the alarm volume. And what happens, worst case scenario, you're dealing with that alarm volume and you miss something that's really, really important. And then we wanted to empower operational automation. And so that could come in many, many different forms. It could come in the automatic creation of, or automated creation of a trouble ticket. It could come into correlating events together to get to root cause and cutting down on manual troubleshooting. Could also be delivering customer centric notifications when you recognize a service disruption. As we said, how are we going to get there? So you got to define your high level requirements. So we said we're going to consolidate and replace our legacy stacks. What does that mean? We said we got to deliver monitoring, alerting, and data output capabilities that are superior to existing vendor and homegrown stacks. TNS has been around for a long time. We've got a lot of homegrown software out there that we need to look into consolidating. We need to collaborate across all of our technical and service delivery partners across the firm. And then we need to find a way to thread the needle and meet all of those requirements across those different organizations. Then we got to automate the platform. We got to take advantage of configuration management data in our CMDB to unify with the new tools, onboarding, and management capabilities. So right now, like I said before, most of our configuration inside of our monitoring tools is done by hand. Very painful. And then we want to develop the automation code to manage the endpoints, not only get the devices into the tool stack, but also as equipment moves or changes. We've got a lot of device retirements that are coming up with our mobile carriers and others switching out of the 3G wireless capacity and capabilities. So we've got to be able to be ready to swap them with minimal disruption to our monitoring. And we need to standardize our monitoring approach. We've got to eliminate legacy piecemeal and customized monitoring profiles. Like I said, there are way too many snowflake customizations that are out there today in our enterprise. So we were questioning, hey, is this monitoring still relevant? Was it a single point of need? And does it really need to be moved over to what is our new greenfield stack look like? And then reducing alarm noise. So we've got to leverage the platform capabilities with dependency mapping, event correlation, and root cause analysis to reduce the overall alarm volume. And then again, empowering operational automation. So we've got to figure out how to make this monitoring stack integrate in order to share data both upstream and downstream. So we've got to be able, especially downstream, to feed our reporting, customer-facing portals, and other tools, along with our ITSM set for automated ticket creation, and eventually workflow orchestration engines for automated issue resolution. So I like this slide a lot. I think a lot of folks who are getting into to monitoring transformations, or even transformations of any kind, you realize how much pain that you've been enduring when you really start to analyze what's going on in your enterprise. So we said, okay, we've got to start with our data. We know that we've got data in different silos all across our enterprise. And the only way you're going to start to bring that together is you got to take the time to analyze the data stacks and then figure out how we can align them and bring them together. And with that comes infrastructure investment. You've got to figure out what the path forward is. Otherwise, you're going to continue to kind of spin your wheels with all these disparate data sets. We said the outcome is that data alignment. We want to be able to bring accessibility and aggregation of the data to one centralized place at as much as possible. The idea, the end result is you get actionable data analytics, product and process insights, understanding what's happening with your customers, and then we're able to differentiate across our different processes and products as a result. So if you remember the meme, all your bases are belong to us. I'm sure this happens all across every company. I know it's been true with every company that I've worked for. There are silos everywhere. And TNS is not alone. It's the same with really any multi-country conglomerate where you've got just presences in all of the different regions. You've got in our case, in many other cases, multiple divisions, and then we've had acquisitions over the past 30 plus years. And then we've got a whole different number of functional groups. So you've got engineering teams, you've got system administration teams, you've got product teams, you've got development teams, code development, and product development teams. You got your operational teams, you've got your service delivery teams. And then we have a really robust set of products and services across all of our different divisions, so different market presences. So you've got a lot of moving parts. And we also have a lot of device, make, model, and service combinations. And that's not just, say, in the server or storage space inside of our infrastructure, inside of our data centers. You're talking about all sorts of different networking equipment that's been deployed across the globe, not only in our data centers, but at customer provision sites as well. So out to your local Exxon gas station, for example. They may be a networking setup for them. So that's something that we absolutely have to take into account. And so as a result, you've got different dev teams, different product teams, different operational teams, different implementation teams. Everyone, there is so much customization that's around the enterprise, and then everyone has requirements. We said, okay, what do we do now? We said, okay, we've got to collect our requirements, build a high-level design, and then profit. If any of you are fans of South Park out there, the Underpants Gnomes episode is a great one. Result, you got to get out there and you got to do your diligence. You got to make a really good assessment of what's going on across your enterprise and where do you want to go. So we started out with executing proof of concept. We said, okay, we're going to test out any and all capabilities of the OmniCenter platform, along with thousands of different device and service permutations that we have out there. We got to make sure that this tool stack can monitor what we need to monitor in order to bring it in-house. You got to get into the platform administration and endpoint management. Like I said before, you've got to make sure that we can run the stack, and then we got to make sure that we can add devices into the stack and do it in the proper way, backed by automation. And we got to make sure people know about it. So we've got to evangelize. It's a great buzzword. We got to make sure that people know what the product stack is about and get people interested and willing to buy in. Buying in is absolutely critical when you are replacing your monitoring stack across the enterprise. You got folks who love what they've got and don't really want to change. They'd rather stick with the devil they know. So you got to make sure that they understand what the impacts are and what the benefits are. Those stakeholders are going to be absolutely vital to your success. And then at the end of all of the proof of concept, we've got to determine if the vision is really going to work. So we made a whole bunch of assumptions as we were getting things going, and now we got to make sure that it really plays. So we've got to identify automation opportunities. We got to visualize and design the mechanisms to onboard and manage the endpoints through not only configuration inheritances, but also the way that OmniCenter works. So making sure that things align properly, and then we want to do it in an automated way. So we want to take the information in our CMDB and be able to also dictate to OmniCenter how things need to be onboarded and how they need to be monitored. And then we needed to dig through the API. We need to make sure that the Netrio API is going to be effective in allowing us to do what we need to do in terms of integration and whether or not there are going to be enhancements that are needed from a Netrio perspective, not only from a Netrio perspective, but also an in-house perspective, because we're both partners in this. We need to define downstream integration needs and plan for that implementation. So how will the data be exported to our reporting platforms or our customer portals or our event management suite or aggregation and correlation? And then how do we get information over to our ITSM stack? And then will there be enhancements or development needed to make those things happen? Then also we need to manage configuration management, or it's going to manage you. And so you've got it. We were saying, hey, we've got to figure out what the tagging strategy is going to be, and what does the data look like within our configuration items in the CMDB? Do we have the data that we need, or are we going to have to also engage in some level of cleanup and sanitation in order to make this work? Because otherwise, we're going to be repeating the cycle of manual management of our monitoring platform. And then ultimately, we need to design how the dashboarding and UI is going to work for our end users. So now we talk about how it's going. And so we went through the POC period, and we kind of got derailed a little bit due to the shenanigans with SolarWinds back in the first quarter. But we got past that, and we were able to get back to focusing on our POC. So our POC ended at the end of April. They said, okay, it's time to transform. As we were exploring what we would need as part of the POC, we found that there were things that we were going to need OmniCenter to expand upon. And a lot of those come in the form of enhancements, new functionality for the API, also new functionality with how the infrastructure works. So we went into, we said, hey, we need performance data extraction enhancements with the API. We also need to see what the uptime data extraction looks like. We also need to be able to manipulate calculate things in terms of onboarding. So not only do we have outbound, but we need to be able to interact appropriately to bring things in correctly. So we've got to be able to handle the interface tags that we're working to develop and be able to designate which interfaces we want monitored in order to prevent false alerts from hitting our NOC. We also have renaming needs if we have changes in service. So if we need to do a swap of a lot of different equipment at one time, we may potentially need to change device names. And then we also needed some functionality built in there in order for us to control polling frequency because we've got different low volume requirements for different wireless plans across the globe. So we got to make sure that our monitoring isn't blowing out our data plans for our customers. And then in terms of service engine provisioning, auto assignment, we've got to make sure that that we don't have to designate which service engine each new endpoint needs to talk to. We want it to be able to be fluid and load balanced. And then in the event of a failure across the service engines, we want to make sure that those endpoints fail over properly across the service engines. So we're really, really excited that that's coming out in a new release. And we needed some enhancements in terms of dashboarding. So we wanted to be able to do some dynamic filtering as our operations groups were looking at our different customer estates. So we wanted to be able to allow them to say, hey, I need customer XYZ. And then they toggle that filter. And all of a sudden, they're able to see the devices that are part of that estate. And then we needed downstream integration development in order to bring data into Apache Kafka in a streaming fashion. We do have a homegrown customer portal technology that was customized for the financial markets customers. And we need to make sure that we can get that data to them as quickly as possible. So we're talking within a minute, we've got to get that data collected from the endpoint, sent out to the Kafka messaging bus and into the downstream customer portal, because that's what our financial markets customers expect. And then ultimately we need an integration to ITSM in order to create trouble tickets. And I had the opportunity to meet Megan Amos, and she shared this wonderful quote. Netrio is thrilled to have partnered with TNS. The enhancements to the OmniCenter products will not only benefit TNS, but many of our customers as they continue elevating their day-to-day monitoring operations. We look forward to hearing about TNS's wins while utilizing our products and continuing to grow our relationship. So that just kind of talks about how we're growing together. With the experiences that we've had from a TNS perspective, not only have we pushed ourselves to improve, and I'm going to get into a little bit more there, but we've also worked with and partnered with Netrio to deliver more functionality, not only for us, but also for Netrio's customers. So talking about where we are now, and this is just to take a look at the time. So where we are now is really kind of coming together. This is the big end punch. So we've got 3 OmniCenter instances that we've deployed in a cross data center high availability pair for each of the major regions across the globe. So in the Americas, the European Union, or Europe, I should say, and then the Asia Pac, they're unified under the EOC. We've got the OmniCenter monitoring capability validated across hundreds of device makes, models, and service combinations. So we've got to make sure, hey, can we monitor all the things that we need to with Netrio? Then we have our Netrio core project team. We meet daily in a Scrum manner because we're following agile delivery methods. And then we've got near daily engagement with our Netrio friends. Thanks to James and Zach for sticking it out with us. And then we've got Netrio development is underway for all requested OmniCenter enhancements. Custom MIB development for unique device types ongoing with Netrio for OmniCenter monitoring capability. Then the next ones are really, really big for TNS. We've got a new configuration data model design in order to support standardized service and product catalog. What I mean by that is we took it upon ourselves to standardize our service catalog as part of this effort. The important thing is in that standardization, we're going to allow ourselves to bring not only consistent data sets and data quality to our CMDB, but also be able to do a lot more automation when it comes to service delivery. We also did configuration data cleanup to get rid of some legacy data sets, identify and fill gaps, and then, like I said, establishing standardized delivery protocols. We have a new new tagging strategy that we've identified. So that way we can tell OmniCenter what to monitor and when. Then we've got automation code that we've developed in order to onboard devices in a automated way into the platform and then manage through moves, adds, changes, deletes, what have you. We've got our integration development teams, which are working on designs to integrate OmniCenter data output to our reporting tool sets, our multiple customer portals, and then eventually out to our ITSM stack. And right now we're going through all of our existing monitoring definitions. We're figuring out exactly what we need to bring into OmniCenter. And along with that, we want to standardize those monitoring profiles so that way we can take advantage of device type mapping and then template inheritance within OmniCenter. And then we're getting into right now training our operations groups, our engineering teams, our system administration teams, and our service delivery teams. And with that, that's it. I know our tagline is all systems go. We are actually starting our first production onboarding next week. So I guess everyone will have to return in 2022 and I can give an update of how it went. So, and with that, that's all I've got. So back over to Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. I mean, amazing to see everything that's gone into the implementation and how much TNS has driven Netrio to up-level the platform in an effort to help you support your customers. So we appreciate you. And I echo everything that Megan said in her quote. I mean, we've had the chance to meet and talk before, and it's always a pleasure. I do want to open it up for Q&A. We are just about out of time now, but if you do have any questions for Matt, please feel free to ask them using the Q&A section, and we'll try and get those answered.
Absolutely. And like I said, you can find me on LinkedIn if there's anything that you want to follow up on after the fact. Otherwise, I'll hang out here in the web session and answer any questions or chat messages that do come across. So thank you, everybody, for your time. Appreciate it. And thank you to Netrio for providing me and Transaction Network Services with the opportunity to present. Thank you.
Of course. All right. So we'll just hang out here for a few more minutes. I know people are going to be jumping over to other sessions, but yeah, Matt, as always, thank you again.
Absolutely. I had fun. Hope everybody else did. I rambled a lot.
All right. Let's see. So we do have a question, Matt, here. So what's one of your favorite features of Netrio?
Let's see. Sorry, I've got I can put myself on mute. Honestly, one of my favorite features of Netrio is the alarm noise reduction. Being able to correlate the root, so by inheriting the parent to child relationships is something that's been sorely lacking in our legacy monitoring tools. So being able to cut down tremendously on the noise. Let's say you've got a core networking device that goes down. You may have 50 or more individual alarms that pop up for all of those downstream devices. But because of OmniCenter, it's able to recognize the parent to child relationships, correlate all of those together, and you end up with one master incident record, thusly cutting down on a lot of noise that's out there for our operations centers. So that's one of just many features that I'm personally passionate about.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we hear that so much that I think James talks about it all the time, and with the parent-child relationships, and it's hard. It's amazing that people are getting an alert for every port behind a switch when the switch goes down, and they're searching for the port that went down, but really it's unbelievable. So
so much time gets lost in having to hunt down, because that's what people are trained to do. People are trained to respond to that individual alert, where it's really hard for humans to try to correlate across a huge event stack at one time. So having that correlation, having those relationships are huge.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll leave it open for questions for just another minute or so here. But yeah, Matt, again, I can't thank you enough. I know it was crunch time to get this done. So we absolutely appreciate you. And again, look forward to seeing you next year at NUGGET 2022 and seeing all the progress that the TNS has made and all the great things we're doing together.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of NUGGET.